Good evening, folks, and welcome to Two Gents, Two Cents. It's me, Mark, and my co-host, Hoffman over here, where you just have two best friends get together and we talk about news in a very approachable way like you would with your best friend, or don't want to listen to the mainstream news, the lamestream news. So let's just jump right into it. We're going to go into segment one. The world is on fire. Lots of breaking news around the world. Iran is threatening the world's oil supply again. U.S. quietly gearing up for a showdown with Venezuela. Ukraine strikes Russia's export lifeline again. And China's positioning itself for a Taiwan invasion while Japan makes its most aggressive move since World War II. It's like they're waking up a little bit. So we're going to dive into story one. And it's going to be the Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. I don't know if you guys have been following, but a couple months ago, we took out some strategic locations that were developing nuclear material for a nuclear warhead in Iran. That was called Operation Midnight Hammer. There was a lot of nuclear material that was left and moved, and they're still developing the weapon. They've been working closely with countries like Russia, North Korea, to develop a intercontinental ballistic missile that's capable of reaching the lower half of the United States, along with Guam and some of our territories. We were kind of letting that sleeping dog lie, but it looks like it's heating up. There's been some military transportation going on over there. There was a U.S. reconnaissance drone over there, and let me tell you why. The reason we have a reconnaissance drone over there right now is because Iran seized a foreign tanker, oil tanker, in the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, and right now they are apparently claiming to do a complete naval blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, which is where most of the world's oil exports go through. And with this, that was a completely illegal move that the Iranians made on the world stage. Completely illegal. And so I think the United States may get involved. We got at the Diego Garcia base right now. We've had some United States Air Force crafts landing there. It's like we're staging up for a round two on that. Big deal. So if this naval blockade holds, there's no option left but war or attacks to open the Strait of Hormuz to allow the flow of global oil exports.
Yeah, folks, I'm like the rest of you guys here, I actually don't know, whoever watches this video, I'm very in the dark. As you can tell, Mark is very well endowed about world order and what is going on with our military and all that political stuff, and quite like the rest of us, don't really pay too much attention, but I am an econ major and a finance guy, so I do pay attention to stocks and markets and trades and all that. And obviously oil is a big needle mover when it comes to almost really anything. You look at transportation, price of gas, obviously, which changes all the logistics for any goods and services that get transported, whether it's in our country or imported from other countries. So I wasn't aware of any of this going on, but I do see a bunch of marine commercials, so I'm assuming we're gearing up for something. But oil is pretty much, it seems like, is attached to anything that we go into, where it is in the world. Oil is always part of it, so
yeah,
very, very important.
Yeah, good point. Good point on the economic side of it, because if the Strait of Hormuz closes, everyone loses. The Middle East is one of the most rich and abundant areas for oil. Yeah, if it closes, everyone loses. It's not a win-win, but Iran right now, they're talking about, I don't know if they've done it yet, but they're talking about moving the capital from Tehran due to the lack of water. Their country's been falling apart. And it's not looking good for them. It's not looking good. And so right now they're kicking and flailing, and we'll see what happens.
How many people live in their capital?
I don't know that, but there's kind of a max
just talking about
exodus right now.
Let's build a city or town over here and the people will come, or are they like, oh no, we're moving you guys. You guys aren't.
Well, I think it's almost turning into a refugee issue. That's how bad it is. You talk about not knowing what's going on, seeing marine commercials. Well, the marine commercials have a lot to do with this. We're going to jump into story two. Story two, U.S. and Venezuela, the shadow war is breaking into light. We had a aircraft carrier, one of our larger ones, transit from another deployment off the coast of Venezuela, and another striker on the way. The U.S. military is, we're sinking drug cartel boats. Right now, the U.S. has basically said strikes on Venezuela are imminent. So I would not be surprised this weekend, folks, if you see on the news that there was a strike on Venezuela. Right now, we're looking at land targets through the air. So that could be 5s, that could be cruise missiles. Off the destroyers, we also have an additional destroyer off the coast. Our special forces basically have a no-name boat, basically. It's kind of a random boat. It's a large ship, actually, but it's kind of incognito, and that's sitting off the coast. So we have a lot of military forces off the coast of Venezuela, and truthfully, we're saying it's to target drug trafficking, but I think it's bigger than that, folks. As we get into these other stories, you'll see and the puzzle pieces will start to fit. We're kind of breaking into another Cold War. Russia has just sent several cargo planes to Venezuela with air defense systems in an attempt to fight off the United States. The United States is sending, everyone knows this, all the military hardware over to Ukraine, and Russia doesn't like it. Russia has said they can even send Venezuela the Oreshnik intermediate range ballistic missile. A lot of debate there. Basically, it's just distance. But effectively, this could be the Cuban Missile Crisis all over again with Venezuela. If Venezuela gets the Oreshnik, it could easily reach the United States. Not all intermediate range ballistic missiles or intercontinental ballistic missiles carry nuclear warheads. That's a common theme, obviously, but they can put conventional payloads on there. Either way, it could wreak havoc. So right now, lots of things happening in Venezuela. And again, folks, I would not be surprised if you see a strike on Venezuela before Monday. And I wouldn't rule out the possibility of a land invasion.
It's interesting. I wouldn't think that they would want to, like when we talk about the drug cartels in Mexico, like fight them on land just because,
Well, that's the guys.
Bigger guns than they do, but like why risk soldiers if you can just do it from the air or remotely or drone strike or...
I mean, that's great. That's a great point. And I think, truthfully, the likelihood of a ground invasion is low. But let's talk about what I think is really happening. I don't think this is about drug cartels. I think that's a cover. I think it's also, there's drug cartels and we are doing that, and that's legit. I think it's a cover. If you look at how the world has operated historically through the Cold War, we go to countries, we make NATO, and we spread our influence. Russia's losing influence, they're losing money, and right now the war in Ukraine is killing them. Syria used to be a Russia Middle East stronghold. Now, not so much. And so I think what's going on is Russia and China are trying to grow influence. And I believe that Venezuela is one of the biggest supporters for Russia. So I think we're trying to nip this in the bud before it gets anywhere, because if a flashpoint kicks off and we do go to war with Russia, heaven forbid, Venezuela would be a great staging ground for Russia, a great place for them to start getting their military hardware, staging troops, or just getting Venezuela loaded up with arms to combat the United States to distract us from Ukraine. Personally, I don't think this is about drug trafficking. I think this is a big game of chess, and we're trying to move into Venezuela and get rid of that regime before Putin has a chance to get his stranglehold on him.
It's interesting. I know that Russia is obviously a giant power. In my head, not being the super big political guy, I don't nearly fear them as much as I do China, but I do realize that Putin is a little more reluctant to press the crazy button and do something than maybe China would. But as far as land goes, they obviously have the most, and they have a ton of oil. But yeah, I would kind of agree with you as far as this is just trying to hold ground and occupy it so the other guy can't occupy it, basically.
Big game of chess. Yeah. Yeah, I think, unfortunately, we're looking at a Cold War round two. Another Cuban Missile Crisis scenario. Yeah, so...
Get your bunkers in New Zealand.
If you're in New Zealand, I would stay away from crowded city streets. Not New Zealand. Venezuela. If you're in Venezuela, I'd stay away from crowded city centers. I will tell you, Foff, Venezuela has come out publicly stating they are starting to train their civilians and tactics that Vietnam used against the United States. Now, I'll tell you that that's a horrible idea. When we went to war with Vietnam, there was not as much technology and we didn't have as much knowledge.
Guerrilla warfare.
Exactly, it was guerrilla warfare. They'd make the tunnels, they'd go in caves, they'd go in tunnels, they'd set up traps. Okay.
Bring a kid out. Why it was so horrible? You couldn't trust kids, you couldn't trust women, you couldn't trust anybody.
No, yeah, and you still can't. And to that point, but back then we didn't have infrared technology near as much. If we did, it was special forces and very rare. So today's day and age, we got drones, we got reconnaissance, we got infrared. If they try to follow suit with these Vietnam-style guerrilla warfare tactics, infrared will detect the gas coming out of the openings. They'll be able to see the heat signatures, and they'll be able to just sniff out these openings. We won't need tunnel rats. We'll just close off the tunnel. and they may combat that, right, and try to send out colder air so it doesn't show up on the heat signature if they're smart. We'll see that too. It'll be a weird signature that doesn't make sense. So just another note, Venezuela knows what's coming. Russia's sending a lot of support, but I will say Russia's been distancing themselves since the United States has doubled down. So we'll see, but it could get ugly. And God bless our troops. Hopefully, we don't get tangled up in Venezuela. But I do think regime change is coming, guys. I think regime change is coming. Maduro is on his way out. Also, there was an election that Maduro lost for a more of a democratic leader, and Maduro did not vacate the opening, the political position. So Maduro is the illegitimate leader of the country.
Well,
all right.
We should just save up for our New Zealand bunker, like I said.
New Zealand. Yeah, I like it.
I don't know if you saw that, but apparently if there's, MAD and everybody's throwing their nukes around, apparently the only place on Earth that would not be affected by nuclear fallout is a couple of areas off the coast of New Zealand. So there's been a bunch of billionaires that have already bought like a ton of land over there.
And pretty much south of the equator is generally safe. If you notice, it's a bunch of us knuckleheads above the north of the equator where we like to fight. Everyone else just uses small arms. But, to his point, he talked about MAD, mutually assured destruction doctrine. Basically, what that means is we shoot our nuke and then everyone shoots nukes. But I think that's an outdated policy. Warheads have developed so far that now you've got tactical nukes. And I think that just because somebody uses a tactical nuke, I don't think anybody uses, my prediction, tactical nukes are going to become used on the battlefield. Especially, I think, in Ukraine. I think it's just a matter of time. But I believe the world knows no one wins. No one wins that kind of warfare. So I do think that tactical nukes are used sparingly, but I don't think it leads to a full-scale war because every country knows that with the United States, we got our NATO partners, we got ICBMs stationed everywhere, we got our nuclear subs everywhere. I mean, basically circling the coast of all enemy nations that at the push of a button, we can end anybody. And that's the same for our adversaries too. There was I believe a Russian spy ship caught off the coast not too long ago. So yeah, everybody has these capabilities and you just got to watch out, which is why the Golden Dome is so important, so critical. Let's move on to story 3. Ukraine hits Russia's export lifeline. The spark in the powder keg. Ukraine just got hit in the port that Russia ships oil to the world. And I think that's Port Novorossiysk. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Ukraine has been targeting Russia's lifeline. And if you guys don't know, to Foffman's point, oil exports are Russia's lifeline. The United States, if you look at there's different graphs you can look at that show you the economy. And Russia's economy is a very monolithic economy. And what that means is they basically have one source. They do have different sectors, but fuel, oil, accounts for about 60% of their economy, and the latest round of sanctions the United States placed on Russia has effectively bankrupted their biggest exporter, Gazprom, which typically goes to India, China. I mean, a lot of these places are not buying it because when you buy that oil, there's financial punishments associated with the United States. What do you think about us bankrupting Gazprom and Ukraine destroying Russia's lifeline? What's that do to their economy?
Yeah, I was, I'll talk about it a little bit, but I have a follow-up on that. So a little slight inside. Like I said, I don't really pay attention too much, but I do have a family member that has a government job, and her job is to essentially do the logistics for missiles, weapons, agents, people, and she's been sending people to Ukraine for like 3 years now, like big time. I know they've been building that pipeline so that, they don't have to rely on Russian energy, but, it's gonna be hard to bankrupt a country like Russia that owns that much land and is sitting on that much oil. However, I don't think that they've ever been that financially stable. It's just Putin has a ton of money. You have businesses that since this Ukraine war has been going on, like Adidas and other big companies that have pulled out, which I think has significantly hurt their economy. If you don't want to fight someone head on, make them bankrupt. Don't trade with them. Don't allow them to get power. And eventually they'll have to give up, I think is what the plan is here, the goal. I couldn't tell you if it's going to work or not or how long it's going to take, but it definitely seems like they're trying to get Ukraine to be able to stand on their own 2 feet, and then Russia is, leaking a little bit, basically. They're losing. They still have China right there. That's like I said. Like I feel like if they have China, like they're always going to be fine. But if they don't, like I don't see who else is going to be helping them
Well,
at all.
let me show you this. You said you don't think that oil exports could slowing down could bankrupt Russia. Let me show you this.
Well, it can if you say, hey, we're just not going to trade with you. But
Yeah,
like I said, I
so
don't
that's
know
global.
exactly what's going on here.
Look at this is the Russian stock market. So at this point right here, August 14th, this is when Putin the latest time Putin said he was willing to meet Donald Trump. Basically, let bygones be bygones. There was a big meeting, and right around this time is when that meeting was supposed to happen. Well, some things unfolded that didn't happen. Right here, if you look, October 27th, that's about when the latest round of sanctions hit. So this is Russia's economy, and right now they are. I mean, you can see they are on a downward trend. Let's just look at the 5 year. Okay, so here it peaked, dropped, peaked. They're on the downward trend again. Where you guys see these peaks, this is artificial inflation. This is where Russia's been pumping money into the war machine. So just keep an eye on that. But effectively, Russia's economy is struggling. Which, just like
Crazy seeing that big dip before. That's obviously COVID. It's crazy to see how
yeah,
much that affected almost every single country in the world. It wasn't, obviously just us, but
agreed.
man, everybody took a hit.
Yeah, big hit. Yeah, I mean, and Ukraine just keeps destroying Russian oil facilities quicker than they can repair them. So it's a problem.
Yeah.
What
Well, they
concerns
better with
me?
how much money we're giving them. Gosh darn.
Well, now there's corruption scandals, but I don't have enough information ready yet to give you that. But a lot of stuff going on there. Yeah, I mean, what I'm worried about is, they talk about a wounded animal, right? If you have a wounded animal that's cornered into a cage, what does it do? It lashes out, and so we got to be careful here. I'm worried about the direction this is going. We'll see.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm not really as afraid of Russia in terms of their economy. However, I feel like Putin's the wild guy that will, do something silly or crazy
I agree.
over some other world leaders. That I'm more concerned about, like, hey, is he going to push that button more or less than can we beat these guys? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
no one. I think that there's not a single country that can stand against the United States in a conventional warfare. Big difference between conventional and anything else. In conventional warfare, I think we win. But I mean, if we get involved in the war in Ukraine and we start winning, we push Russia back. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to start. I do think they're going to start using tactical nukes. So this is a lose-lose situation. Hopefully, we get a peace treaty signed soon.
yeah, yeah, and I
All right.
I don't want us to go into Russia. First of all, I don't want Russia. I don't want it.
It's cold.
They can have it.
Yeah.
Too cold. I don't care. Take their oil or whatever. I don't care about them. Obviously, we're the protectors here, but I mean that's just it's a lot of money we don't get back. A lot of money, and I don't want to see people lose their lives. I mean, just
No,
in
I agree.
general.
We got to stop this war. Well, that kind of leads right into the next topic. China and Taiwan. This one is the scariest flashpoint that you don't know when it's going to pop off. I don't know how much you followed it.
2054 or whatever the date is, isn't it?
2054,
When
year 20.
I think it's like 54 when they signed that. They signed a bill like 100 years ago or like 50 years ago, like when Taiwan said they were going to be their own island, and China said, "Well, we want you." But then I don't know what it's called, but they signed something like 50 to 100 years ago that said, "Well, basically, we'll deal with it then. Like you can have this 100 years to have your own shit." Basically, you'll have to look up what I'm talking about, but it's in like 20 years or something.
Well, I think that's going to become sooner than later. So right now, there's a lot of things going on. Taiwan's doing a lot of military drills. China's doing a lot of military drills. China's done things like essentially naval blockades, temporary naval blockades.
They want those ports.
They infiltrated Taiwan's airspace, and it all boils down to the chips, right? Rare earth materials, chips, a huge economy factors, but also the military strategic side of things. Right now, the United States doctrine over there is island contain, and that's one of the islands we have a big influence in. Where effectively, if war with China did outbreak, we've got island contain, which makes it a lot harder for them to make it to the United States.
Yeah.
Which
We could
earlier
do a history video on that at some point, but I mean, it would be way too long. I mean, that whole Taiwan to China, I mean, that goes all the way back. I mean, we're talking like the Great Wall. Like that has been an issue, and they have been on their, they had English and British influence, before World War One. It was a very, honestly, I don't want to say Catholic, but like it was democratic. English was influencing that island, and the Salt Road with Marco Polo, like that's where he started his adventures way down there. Like that there's been controversy there, and China's tried to rule that, and vice versa for, hundreds and hundreds of years. It's like, like what we've talked about, in my opinion, again, I'm not a big political guy, but Israel and Palestine, it just seems like it's never not going to be an issue. It goes back to the Bible. I don't know. I think there's going to be conflict there forever.
Yeah, I agree. Because right now, the PLA air and sea exercises are surrounding Taiwan. China's increasing amphibious assault drills. Chinese state media is openly discussing reunification by force. To your point, they want it. And Taiwan's having to scramble their jets every day. But here's the newest news. This part's crazy. Japan, since World War II, has had a defense doctrine where their military has been nothing but defense, and they would actually reject ideas of submarines or attack destroyers because they were attack in nature, not defensive. China is worried because Japan has come out and they said, if you go into Taiwan, we will not stand by. And there's a possibility we will also attack you. So now China's ramping up rhetoric.
The same thing that happened in World War II, basically.
Exactly, same thing. Yeah. And China has told their citizens not to travel to Japan because they're worried about conflict breaking out soon. And I think that's a problem.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand how crazy that Japanese-Chinese conflict was before we got involved in World War II. It was very nasty. We were talking like what happened in the Pacific Islands and all those crazy, unspeakable things that we don't need to talk about. That was happening. Japanese people were doing that to Chinese people, and then they were putting it in their newspaper with, hundreds of, bodies, what we'll say, and being very proud of it. It's something that they, kind of like with Nazi Germany, they don't really talk about in their history books at all because, yeah, it's a bad look. But if you're saying that could happen again, that's huge.
Yeah, Japan is increasing their military spending to record levels right now. New defense plans to deploy missiles capable of striking Chinese bases are being rolled out. Joint operations with the United States are ramping up. And Japan's largest naval movements are happening since World War II. I think that you're seeing old school Japan coming back.
Yeah. So, strategy question here. If that were to happen, do you think that Japan would just directly go to Taiwan and try to fight on that border and that front from the coast? Or do you think they would do what they did in World War II and attack from the north and come south?
I don't know. I don't know, because the Chinese would basically do a blitzkrieg style attack where they would just rush all their forces into Taiwan and try to destabilize it as quick as possible.
Strategically, Russia would then come down too.
Well, exactly. Strategically, This isn't a regional war. It would be China, Taiwan, Japan. United States gets brought in. Does Russia help fight? Then does North Korea go, ooh, I want to get involved? And then South Korea is like, well, if you're fighting my guy, I'm getting involved. So, it's really a dangerous situation. But to your point, strategically, if it was me, I think Japan and the United States give some resources to help fend off the invasion of Taiwan, but I think they probably attack the North as a diversionary tactic.
Yeah, I guess thinking about it now, it would kind of be all dependent on where Russia is in the deal. Because if they're still busy dealing with Ukraine, you could definitely attack from the north, and then China has to split up their troops, basically. They can't go all to the south and try to take over Taiwan. But if Russia comes involved, that's their border right there. So, I don't know. Another thoughts for another video, maybe, if something happens, but I wouldn't mind getting into a little bit of war strategy with you.
Yeah, so let's jump in. Segment 2, the apocalypse watch list. All right, let's jump right into it. South China Sea, standoffs at reefs, missiles deployed. Talking about Taiwan, Israel-Lebanon border, tensions rising again. Peace treaties are about on the wayside. Cyber attacks are probing U.S. infrastructure. Global markets fear index rising. The fear of World War III breaking out is spreading like wildfire. Energy prices are volatile across the board. Gas, oil, electricity. It's getting spicy, guys. It's getting spicy. So here are things that could happen overnight. Here are things to watch for. Iran could potentially, don't think they're dumb enough, fire on a U.S. ship as we go in to enforce legal and open passageways through the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. right? I've already told you, I think the most likely thing is this weekend before Monday, you're going to see a U.S. strike Venezuela. U.S. strike on Venezuela. Venezuela could shoot at a U.S. military craft. Don't recommend that. China could stage a Taiwan blockade. I think that's within months, right? But overnight, I mean, there are so many powder kegs, and the last thing the United States wants is to be stretched thin across several theaters. Venezuela, Taiwan, Iran, and the Strait of Hormuz. We're really going to need our NATO partners to help step up.
Yeah, agreed.
So this week feels like the world's pressure points are all activated at the same time. We're watching history happen in real time, folks. Next week might be the tipping point. If any of these dominoes fall, everything changes between now and then. So that's the world news in a nutshell.
Cool. Well, guys, on these kind of videos, obviously this is different from what we usually do with the sports stuff. We're going to kind of just put these out when we feel necessary. And then maybe at some point there will be a separate channel for it or some form or fashion. But right now we're just going to be putting out whatever the heck we want because it's our channel.
2 gents, 2 cents.
Yeah, 2 gents, 2 cents. And yeah, let us know if you like this kind of stuff. If you'd like to hear a little bit more about certain aspects or just really any comments in general. If you're feeling any type of way, you hate it, love it, don't care, whatever you got. Obviously, we're still just starting out in this game, but we obviously want feedback and know what we're doing not well, different. So if you got anything, let us know, and maybe you'll see another episode of this coming next week, or maybe it'll be a couple weeks, who knows. It'll just kind of be one of those things. When something happens, we'll try to get on and make a video about it.
Yep, and like he said, we're going to cover the world news as it comes up. Our biggest point everyone needs to understand, we're always going to remain apolitical. We're not going to let you know what our political affiliations are, if we have any.
Yeah.
We're going to give you the news straight, and we're not going to give you a spin. We're not going to give you bias. We'll let you decide what the news is. We'll give you the facts. No feelings. With that,
100% there.
With that, folks, please like, comment, and subscribe, and stay safe out there.
Peace.
Peace.